Welcome to Radio Conscious.
Hello, and welcome to Radio Conscience on Truth is Here. Today is Monday, April 2nd, 2012. Again, we have a third talk with Mike Castle, and this talk will be a follow-up on talk number 2 that was done on March 28th. And it's a real pleasure to have you back on. Can you hear me?
I can certainly hear you.
Good. So how have you been?
Healing.
Healing? Okay.
Healing, yeah. Well, see, I don't really like healing because that's what you tell your dog to do down at your feet. Heal. Mm-hmm. Healing. Or cure, that involves natural rubber and polysulfadic bonding. That's how you cure rubber, sulfur.
Okay. All right. So tonight is going to be sort of a continuation of talk number 2. We had discussed mainly radionics, but many other subjects as well. And why don't you give us tonight's title?
Reinforcing a method or methodology.
Okay. Reinforcing methodology. Okay. So that should be very interesting. It's always related to the natural magnetic energy, I believe.
Exclusively.
Okay. So this should be very, very interesting. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, y'all pull up a chair, but I enjoy doing this, but it also gives me an opportunity to reflect a little bit on some of the parameters of this world that we haven't yet begun to look at. And I'm just trying to explain to you with my history on the radio, battling the chemtrails for 13 years, right along with Cliff Carnicom and everybody else, Lori Kramer, everybody out there, all these warriors, we're still at it. Mm-hmm. But see, I've dedicated my time to finding techniques that reverse this crap because they're not going to stop. But through that, I found out how magnificent God is because of his nature, because of the nature of this earth, aptly named Earth. But the method, I've been blessed with this stumbling across these methods. And my own trial and error has in fact proven to me and millions of others that this energy does exist. And all I'm trying to do is say, hey, just look at this just for a second. Forget all your academia. I don't care. Just take a look at this. And the minds are starting to come to life. They are. And I'm getting affirmations from people with horrible Morgellons. What am I promoting? Reversal. I know how to reverse these suckers by making them collide with what's called a reverse polarity. It's just almost common sense type things. But I also found that in the methods that I've just invented, I've been an inventor virtually all my life, with many U.S. patents, but I pay attention to what I'm doing, and I'm always seeking. I'm seeking something. I've got no interest in all the sidebar stuff, which is set up by the reptilian species to divert your thinking away from this one field, natural magnetic energy. Understand, folks? It's what God put on this earth, if you want to look at it that way. Of course he did. But if you choose to think that was some other manifestation of something that occurred that maybe even a different planet at one time, going around the fourth time and getting ready to go around the fifth, as we've been told, or it's been suggested. Not saying we can divert something that is also called fate. But I found a way that we can use this natural magnetic energy through a simple method, just simple methods, clear your mind of all the clutter, and these things work. The pendants work, the apertures work, any kind of aperture. I'll tell you how to build one just because I want you to get one. I want you to put this up and start looking at the deflection of the chemtrails. You're being bombarded, saturated with this stuff everywhere, especially in Sedona, Arizona. They're trying to eradicate you because you are somewhat absolutely brilliant and bright about so many things. But they got you. They're going to slowly poison your mind so it is not creative. They're going to dumb you down with their fluoride, with their poisons, and this is all the reptilians. This is what they do.
And let's not forget the vaccines too, eh?
Oh, just you got a whole stack of stuff over here on the ooey gooey side, and nothing over here to do anything about it. There are a few things out there that, in fact, will do some of these things. Talking about chemtrails, if you just put up an aperture, just a very simple, it's not even a device. It's solid state. There's no moving parts. And it puts this radiance up. And this radiance, in fact, is in the form of a large magnetic vortex. Yes, it is vortexian. And that's why I say if you put one of these apertures together and set it close to within 20 feet of the biggest tree that you can find. The good old tree. You got a couple large oaks out in the front yard. Heavy. Why? Because, man, they got massive root systems. And that's what you're looking for. This magnetic energy envelopes also the posterior, or let's just say in the ground, the same magnetic vortex with a counter rotation spin is going down. At the same time, it's going up because the tree picks it up. And as I to reflect a little bit on what I've tried to say before, live wood magnifies or amplifies this energy. It magnifies it. Nothing else in electromagnetic will do that.
So that
just ground energy.
If I understand correctly, this counterspin vortex that goes down to the roots, this is the reason why it amplifies so much, right? And the bigger the root system, the bigger the vortex going up.
Yes, it's full of, 1, minerals, 2, it's full of chlorophyll. Those are the perfect combinations of things to handle natural magnetic energy, as if it were rock or iron. See, it's the perfect, let's just say mixture, if you will, of non-empirical elements that in fact do one thing. It's the very lifeblood of the tree, of the plant, of that world. Just as our blood is our lifeblood. Okay, chlorophyll is that too there. But there's some very bright people that one time just thought for a moment that if they were ever going to build a bio brain, why not make certain that it's got chlorophyll in it? Yeah. Okay. So they've done that. Actually, it started with 2 Catholic nuns back in the mid-1970s or something. I read about that. But let's go back. Let's go back to the tree. The tree picks up the natural magnetic energy in a very elliptical, lazy spin orbital that rotates from left to right. It has a right spiral on it. And someone always gets confused about where one must stand before you can determine which way is a right spin. Okay, if you've got your hand in front of you, take and just move that in a clockwise orbital, like an oval. And now just continue and go straight up above your head. That's what a right spin looks like, okay? Mm-hmm. And when you really get good at doing that. Imagine your hand doing that. And then on the left-hand side of your conscious, take and start spinning something at the same time to the left, but it is much smaller. It is a much smaller vortexion that counterspins. You got a large elliptical to the right, and then okay, I know those are all mind games and it sounds silly, but folks, that is the way you carry this energy form huge distances. You can, in fact, take this, if you're in the state of Maine, you can think of something in California, and everything along that pathway, in fact, will be affected in a good way. Omissions of thunderstorms. So the further away you are, the better this works.
Interesting.
Did you have a question?
It's very, very interesting.
Well, see, radionics, that's what they were onto. They were healing people over in foreign countries here in the U.S. Did you read that? Okay, so they were on to something, and then they were told to just drop it. Just drop it. Drop it. They did. Well, guess who said that? The reptilians, people. They've embedded this crap into our brains all of our lives. We are human, made in his image kind. Period. And we have a soul, and they don't. We can love, and they can't. We can reproduce. They cannot. You see, this is a slow, like making a smoothie out of all of us or something. Just by this chronic embedment of this vacuum, we can break out. Follow that magnetic vortex. I'm telling you, that is the way out of this. In so many ways, I cannot describe to you. It works in so many ways that I'm not even keeping list anymore. But you know, hooray! Well, what did I discover something? No, it's not. Everybody else, somebody else discovered these things. I just put them together. I took something that Dr. John Malusky, in fact, observed, and I spliced it together with something that Tesla had observed about the use of crystals, any type of crystal form, with a Mobius coil with a right spin on it. And he did talk about that, where it accelerates any energy form. This happens to be magnetic energy. So and see, we're in a magnetic field ourselves.
That so device, the device he invented, Tesla, the free energy device was based on natural magnetic energy?
Do not know that. No, Tesla, he loved natural magnetic energy, but it was so diffuse in describing or defining exactly what it was. Okay. That's why Einstein avoided that enumeration. And he did. He would not discuss this with, as I understand, with Wilhelm Reich. Matter of fact, I poked a great big hole in Einstein's credibility, for a time. Just considering that there would possibly be any connectivity to this thought process of what is, in fact, the real theory of relativity, because that was omitted. You can't omit natural magnetic energy. But we've been trained that every time we say that, we've been brain trained, embedded to think put that electro in front of it, see? Now, that means man has something to do with that. Because there's not an electromagnetic field around this planet unless man put it there. And there's a lot of particle physics and things that we do understand streaming in from the sun on a daily basis. And yes, it creates like an electrical field. It does. I'm not going to deny that. And they'd be silly to think otherwise. But there's also an extraneous peripheral electromagnetic grid that's also put around this world as if it were made out of iron or zirconium. It's impenetrable. You can't get out, folks. That is the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
That is Matrix.
I have a question, Mike. If you could answer this, animals or mammals that are migrating, some of them, I read a story about whales that were like about 20 whales that beached, and they all had what you call it, the magnetite within their mouth, and they were following is it the natural magnetic energy corridors they follow or something? Does natural magnetic energy have corridors or linear forms for these mammals to follow?
Yes, they do. They're called ley lines.
Ley lines, okay.
Ley lines we do not understand, have not been told, and you're a kook. In fact, if you go there or some type of astrologer or a witch or something, ley lines. No, ley lines are in fact the basis of all of the ancient cultures that were upon these lands. Mm-hmm. That is the only grid that they had, natural ley lines.
I remember the term ley lines in a movie or based on a novel, The Da Vinci Code. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw that movie or read the book, but I remember that ley lines were a term used in that movie. Or are we talking about the same ley lines that we used, or does it have anything to do with natural magnetic energy?
Yes, it is the natural corridors, as you call them, of magnetism.
Okay.
Of magnetism. And see, magnetism rules. It's the primal energy of this planet. But we can't see that. Yes, you can. This is what all the ancient tribesmen knew. The witch doctors, they called them witch doctors or medicine men. Nothing to do with witches. But see, they understood this, but they were only taught things that they were handed down from their grandfather, and they taught them what to do, and they only had to tell them once how to do it. And these ancient Indians would go completely on faith. Drop the word belief, drop the word believe. Go, if you can muster that and go to faith. They had faith in that. That if they would do these things, they had faith in that. That was their prayer. And they done it by stomping on the ground with their moccasin feet and making certain sounds with their vocal cords. Or maybe having something that made certain high-frequency sounds, such as gourds with seeds in it, and those shuster type sounds. And see, they knew how to do that. They were taught how to do that. And they would go on faith. And a wonderful rainstorm would come and rain all over their just planted fields in the early spring. Oh, and there was such abundance. And then all the wild fowl would come in for good hunting. And you see, this is all they needed. This is all they needed to survive. And they knew of this ancient wisdom. It is not a technology. Folks, get that word out of your head. I assure you, it is your enemy. Technology is not your friend. It will consume you. Mm-hmm. Exchange that word for methodology in your mind.
We seem to have an echo here, Mike. Are you using your headphones at the moment?
I am.
Okay. I just have a little echo here.
Well, I've got my speaker on. Maybe it was...
Maybe, yes.
RF through the speaker.
There's a little feedback here. I had a question. Is there a possibility, however remote, that if the electromagnetic field around the Earth created by man is so intense that it would collapse the natural magnetic field of the Earth?
Absolutely. And I'm a chemist and don't use that word often.
Okay, so there's a possibility, however remote, it's possible.
Well, HARPS is the tool that you use to compress the entire magnetic field of Earth. Yes.
Okay.
HARP.
I wonder if these scientists are aware of that.
Probably not. Scientists?
I mean,
Why are you so cordial to a bunch of reptilian minions? That's all
well, they are scientists, but they're mad scientists. I know that they're doing experiments, but a lot of them are coerced. I heard stories about scientists that are being kept prisoner and they can't even get out. They have to work on certain projects, and whenever they discover something or whatever, they can get rid of them. Or it's horrible.
Just the reptilian way.
Okay. And in our last installment, you talked about a HARP satellite. Now, I've been scouring the web for this, but I never really found anything about a space version of HARP. So probably it's a very secret program, part of the Black Ops. But this.
I'll assure you, just let me comment, I'll assure you there are 27 orbiting satellites, geostationary, that in fact make up the matrix of what we call the array of HARP. And in fact, it's waved down. It's generated, and in fact, I'm not trying to stretch your imagination, but some of these are nuclear powered on board anyways. We've just not been told that because they're hush, not allowed to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
The very thing that Dennis Kucinich, in fact, was so programmed, in fact, to try to stop with the Space Preservation Act and H.R. 2977, or is it 2799? I forget. 2799 or 2977, yeah. Well, you can see where that went, and it was never resurrected, never voted upon, nothing. But that is exactly what he was trying to stop, is the complete deployment of the total array. There's 27 of them that are critical. Now, I've been told by people who know the Galactic Federation and the United Galactic Federation, I've been told by them that, yeah, they know which ones they are, and they're going to put a whopping to them or something, you know? Mm-hmm. My only question to him was, when do you plan on doing this?
When? Yeah.
When?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Galactic Federation and Galactic Federation of Light and Pleiadian Council and the Arcturian Council, and I'd rather stay with facts. And I know that probably there's behind-the-scene work and all that, and that's just fine. But maybe we should start looking at our own problems and start, figuring out ways to take care of it on our own.
Well, I think that's why we're talking about it with the titlement that you've picked is conscious. That is exactly what we need to do. Is we don't need to expand our mind, but just start picking up on things that are prohibiting you from moving forward with thought processes. And all I'm trying, and I'm not teaching you, I'm not training you, but I'm suggesting. Mm-hmm. Because consultants can suggest and advise, and that's what I do. I'll give you a finding and a recommendation, and that's what I talk about all the time. But these things here allow you to move forward in spite of all the injuries caused by this thing that we call our societies and our life forms, and this almost indentured servitude. I mean, it just continues. This is the Matrix. It's all about money, and why they love that crap so much, I got no clue. Oh, because it means that they can do anything they want. Well, why don't you just do everything that you want anyways, and not try to kill us in the process, and we'll be just fine.
Well,
See, they don't understand that. They're the killers. They're the ones that want us eradicated anyways.
I remember being interviewed, I was interviewed on a French radio station last year, in November, I believe. They asked me the question regarding this, and why would they do that? I mean, so I answered, it's simple. They lost control. They're losing control. It's too hard to control 7 billion people. So they're trying their best to lower the population of the earth and to remain in control and to install a total dictatorship and all that.
Well, that's that. See, I don't presume that I accept that theology. I don't agree in any manner whatsoever that there's a need to depopulate the earth of humans.
Yeah,
now.
but it's pretty hard to understand the minds of these psychopaths, because they are psychopaths, and
just so I'm on record of saying I don't presume that is accurate, and nor do I buy into it. But I will battle it every step of my way, because this is absolute. There's that word again, unadulterated evil that we look at every single day.
Yes.
That pierces our ears from these weapons. And your TV is now a weapon, folks. Your computer screen is a weapon. Your cell phone is a weapon. Your iPods, all your trinkets and toys are being used against you because you can't get away from not using them. Like I'm on Skype right now. I'm sitting in front of my computer. Oh, but I figured out a way of blocking that crap that comes out of there. It's all reptilian stuff. It's called a disruptor, and it uses the molded magnetite and 2 counterwound quartz crystals. And you just set that puppy anywhere in the room. You can set it in front of your computer if you like it. But see what it does. When that wave comes out of there, it streams. It streams that wave into the hippocampus region of your brain. That's at the front of the brain. And right above is the temporal lobes. They flood this out, and it also hits your pineal gland. And they do that enough, they in fact can trigger all sorts of problems, whether manifested in your mind or if it's something that you just thought of. Or they can make your legs hurt. They can make your joints hurt. They can do all the stuff using this waveform coming out of these screens. They do it. It's called psychotronics. Look it up. This is what Brzezinski bragged about as being the weapon with technology that is going to enslave and kill us. Psychotronics. This is the psychotronic wave, but it can be deflected because of the waveform. I'm not a genius or an electrician, but I can tell you, I know that waveform comes out there in waves. Just by setting this disruptor or a pendant, made out of magnetite at the base with the crystals bonded ceramically to the top. You just set that there, and what it does, these vortices comes out of the pendant because of the disruptor. That auric energy, like an aura, radiance, an aura, coming out of there is picked up by the crystal and spun and accelerated out of the crystal through the coil, and in fact, you got a natural magnetic vortex. Those bump in to that HD wave. That's all it does. It just bumps into it. And it is primal, so it's ground, essence of ground energy in that space, bumps that wave, and there's something that happens to the waveform. It's called dead bedding. All of the other waveform following it will follow that out off the side of the screen and not hit you in the hippocampus region of your face.
So it creates
Tell
sort
me
of
where I'm wrong about that.
So you're like protected inside a vortex.
You are in a vortex.
Okay.
You're in a natural, and it will deflect all the microwave energy, or what they call frequency-based modulation, modulation-based frequency. So it's a carrier-based modulation. And the way I see it in my mind, after years of sideband radio, back in the 80s and the 90s, oh yeah, I used to have a real crew out there. I was Tecumseh on the CB radio. We talk high frequency. I talk to guys in Australia. So, but I understand waveform to the point where I know we've got a large base carrier wave. In this case, what's coming from the Gwen towers, and it in fact can infiltrate your entire screen system. That way they can get their waveform localized. They can put out, kill everybody over here, and then everybody else in the other side of town is eating pizza. So they can do anything they want. I'm not making that up. They can do anything they want. It's just that you have to be able to recognize it. That's all I'm trying to tell you to do. It's how to protect yourself from this stuff before it affects you. That's it. It's got nothing to do with me. It's just the way these things work. It's just a concept. That's why I named my company, all my companies that I've ever had,
Castle Concepts. Yes. It's amazing to talk about this. I'm really, it blows my mind. I mean, natural magnetic energy, I never heard anyone or never saw anyone write or better than you on this.
Neither have I.
But it's really fascinating, and I'm really inclined in the technical way to set up these things. Like I've talked last year, I talked to you about how to the recipe for for how to make the pendants and the disruptors.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to thank you again for those wonderful pendants you sent us last year, and it was really, really appreciated, and really helped out.
Well, see, they'll last forever as long as you don't get them wet.
Yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Don't get them wet, or these gremlins will hatch out of it. No, I was kidding you. Like the movie, just don't get it wet.
So basically, anybody can make these.
And I encourage them to. All they need to do is to get some good magnetite.
Okay.
And they can use lodestone. You don't have to use just something. I don't really think of that because I've noticed throughout my years of studying nature, and a really good environmental consultant from the old guard, the old years. But looking at nature, I can see that there's not been a leader upon this earth outside of Jesus Christ that actually, in fact, would teach us how to live in harmony with it if we would just listen to God. But see, we don't. We violate that trust every single day just because we're caught into a matrix and we think there's no escape. There is something that can divert their attention because, as you said yourself, they haven't realized yet that they have lost this battle. And I almost want to say hooray, but instead I'll say hoka-hey.
Well,
these are methods, and let me give a quick tail summary on this. As I described in our last discussion on this, it's very simple things. I told you about the trees. You'll find other things about the trees that you'll find just absolutely, really mind-blowing. But trees become your friends when you've got this natural magnetic energy around. They can be your friends without it, okay? But you got to recognize that. That place that I told you, I think my spirit actually came from. I named that planet Alcyone 2, spelled Alcion 2. If you do enough research, you can get a clue as to what's in this life after this life. And we'll all be there. There will be a moment. We'll all be there. Where are we going? I think that's just right beside us. That place that Jesus once called paradise. He said, you will be with me in paradise today. And I go before and prepare a place for you. But you see, he was talking to a thief who was also hanging on a cross. And one said yea, and one said nay. Very unfortunate. But see, there are more than one place to go. And there are no other options. But if you go to the place that's good, which I believe we will, I believe we've got no clue on how grand God's love is for all of us human, made in his image kind. We've got no idea how deep that is. But he also gives us his grace. And the grace comes through his Son, Jesus. Remember when Jesus was walking through the one place? I got to refresh my memory on that by reading that passage again. But he was walking through, and they were very hungry. And then he came upon this plant which was supposed to bear fruit. And I think he kind of like, he didn't curse it, but he said something, you should no longer bear fruit. I don't want to paraphrase. I'm not supposed to do that. But remember that the Bible describes the plant as just wilting?
I don't remember that passage.
I'll have to get it. I'll do my homework and look that up before I speak of it next time. But he did. But the plant just completely wilted, and it never bore fruit again. Anyways, I think there's is a testament to energy. And I think that energy is so powerful that we it would defy us to believe anything of that. So you got to have faith as opposed to the belief. If you have faith that energy is very unique, why wouldn't that be something that's God's love?
And that
magnetic energy.
So that means that's where radionics kicks in.
That's where the heart and the mind work together symbiotically, naturally. So when you're wanting something to happen, just outstretch your hands. Outstretch one of your hands and face. Let your hand point to the area where you want good weather to come in. But do this with your heart and your mind at the same time. That's called willing. You can will something. I find out it even works even greater if I can imagine a right spin orbital, elliptic orbital, and then as I get fixed on that, I imagine a left spin orbital. And I get those together going. And if you, in fact, put those together at the center, it forms a perfect figure 8. That is infinity.
Okay. Interesting. I never saw it that way. Very interesting.
That is infinity. Yeah.
Infinite 8, yes. Yes. Makes a lot of sense now.
Well, see, that's all I'm trying to do, Jean-Francois, is to not retrain anybody, but just think about this for just a minute. Maybe it is a good thought, and I think all those are good thoughts because it deals with things that we know somehow within inside us that is natural. And we are all inclined as humans to think of things that are natural. That is in our very DNA. Now being quickly replaced with agrogenome and all kinds of spaghetti DNA, RNA, synthetic DNA. It just goes on and on and on. See, this is the bombardment of our species and eradication of it. What? Human, made in his image, kind. You're the bullseye. And I'll say once again, okay, hey.
So I'd like to get back, if you don't mind, to the building of these apertures. I mean, it looks quite simple. If I look at the diagram on your website, it doesn't look that complicated. So basically, you just need a few things like a galvanized bucket, then maybe, and some magnetite, couple of crystals, a copper pipe, some wiring,
Copper wire, some copper wire and copper pipe, and a
uh
little bit of water. There you got it. That's all you need. It works with or without the water. It doesn't make any difference. I just find it works better with the water.
Okay.
Especially when you put this around a garden area that you want to grow stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This energy, these vortices, in fact, engulf the vining, the beans, and make them grow like 3 or 4 or 5 inches overnight. I tested this, and I could not believe what I was seeing. I didn't do anything. I just set this galvanized bucket with magnetite and a couple of crystals and a copper penny inside the greenhouse one night, and the next morning I came out, and the ones that were away from, far enough away on the right-hand side, on this left-hand side in the middle, and I had these 3 plants. They grew up over top of the stake that I had and the ropes, the string that I had, and it cascaded down on the other side. These were at the top of where it cascaded down. That's a good 4 to 5 inches away, and this was just overnight, and I went out there back in the greenhouse at 11 o'clock in the morning.
So
It's got so many other functionalities and uses. I can't begin to describe them, but it also produces this large magnetic vortex in close proximity to a tree.
So basically, it makes like vegetables grow faster and bigger, and plants grow faster, and
Yes.
okay. So it amplifies or it accelerates the growth process.
It does, and it's doing that by the utilization of magnopole, not dipole, magnopoles.
Minus, minus.
Minus, minus, that's ground energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's doing this by an excitement and reproduction of all the microfolia that's entrained in the soil medium, the soils that these plants are growing in. It excites because they're profusely reproducing, and they're utilizing this newfound mineralization technique in a field of natural magnetic energy. I don't know anybody that's ever looked at that or studied that, but I found it just unbelievably fascinating about how much they were enhanced by ground energy. But they're in the ground. Well, I don't know, but this is ground energy that it's a 10. That's what's coming out of this as far as the magnopole. And the strength of the field of energy we have today is less than a 4. It's less than a 4. 3-something. That wasn't me said that. Somebody else did. But we're in this magnetic field, magnosphere, and that has to do with magnetricity. It has nothing to do with electromagnetricity, which is the field that we want to do today. But see, they can't get natural magnetic energy from electromagnetricity. Why?
Because there's a plus and a minus.
Because it's a plus and a minus, and it contains all these free spatial charged energies that in fact have a positive and negative. That's a dipole.
Mm-hmm.
The natural magnetic energy exists only as a magnopole.
So
When it's in the water, minus exists as a magnopole in the ground energy, and then you got this plus minus. That's why we've now proven amongst ourselves, many of us, that these pendants have a reversing effect on Morgellons fibers. Well, why is that? Didn't I see the very complex elite study that Clifford Garnicom had done on iron, iron in the blood, and how dangerous it is, and this and that? I searched and I scraped, and I never did get to talk to him. The only question I had is, can you do this same type of inference using a field of natural magnetic energy and test it to the standardization process as well?
What was the answer?
That I know of. That message got to him, but I don't know that he ever in fact responded. But it's not just him. I try to get hold of Jan Smith and ask her about this. Nah, just doesn't seem like I can get a hold of anybody. But that's okay. It doesn't make any difference to me, but I can just say all I want to do is is implore to them, test these things, will you? Just test these things. If there's nothing there, tell me. Tell us. There's nothing here. Just do that. That's what I'm wanting them to do. I'm looking for affirmations as well. And Dr. Gwen Scott, she gives me all these affirmations. Not because I'm me and we have the sincere relationship we've always had, and I've never met her. But this is one very brilliant, bright Joan of Arc woman, I'm telling you, Dr. Gwen Scott. She concurs with, well, I'll let her tell you that sometime. She concurs with everything that I've said thus far because we talk about it every once in a while on the phone. But these, in fact, are born of just concepts like drinking the natural magnetized water. You don't have to build an aperture. Just set it on a bag of magnetite. Set the gallon of water on magnetite for 3 days. Just 3 days, 72 hours. Now drink that water. I always use distilled because you don't know what's in the other stuff. If it's steam distilled, at least double, triple steam distilled water, that in fact will still carry a magnipole, a natural magnetic energy within its column. It also makes a deposition called etheric in situ deposition of ormus, or me, orbitally rearranged elements, metal elements, or me's. Actually, it's almost in the metaphysical sense. But if you have a deposition of ormus, which all different properties, all different methods are used with that, and Dr. John Malusky is the one that discovered that, not me. But I happen to know of his observation and remember him telling me that. So you see, when this ingested water is taken as just drinking water, water's a hydration, or with your coffee, how do you hydrate yourself? Everything that you drink, natural magnetic water. Remember, that's a magnipole. Mm-hmm. So your cells are infused with magnipoles as far as a charge. These nitinoids, the nitinoids are the Morgellons fibers, specifically the replicators. Yeah, I've looked at the patents. I've told you this story before. Mm-hmm. I've seen that they're electromagnetic. They've got like 7 balloons, if you will, in the fiber. One of the compartments, in fact, is a electrolytic battery, which is taking the electrolytes from your body to power its battery. Okay. You're always tired and stuff. Okay. But that is electromagnetic. It says so right in their patents. You remember what I said before? Anytime that electromagnetic energy encounters natural magnetic energy always wins.
Okay. So that means that either by drinking this magnetized water with magnetite, like you said in the last show, set it for 3 days and on top of the magnetite and all that, mm-hmm. or the pendant mm-hmm. could reverse the polarity of these fibers and therefore just disable them. Is that correct?
Well, what happens when you reverse the polarity of something that's electromagnetic? It's not even really alive. It's pseudo-alive.
Okay, pseudo-alive, but it disables them, right?
It disables them.
So that the pendant would have the same effect as this drinking of magnetite charged water? Would have the same effect?
I have faith in that, yes.
Okay.
It does reverse their polarity, and when you reverse the polarities of anything, then it's not going to work anymore, because that is, in fact, how it replicates. If you shut down the replicator, that's the same as shutting down a device, correct?
Yes.
That's the off switch.
And what happens to these fibers? They stay in the body, or what happens to them?
Well, you got to remember the fibers, in fact, are components that were taken from your body to begin with. So it will assimilate them through normal processes that are involved with. It depends on just how bad I hate to use this word, infested, but it just kind of depends on that. Dr. Gwen Scott said there's 12 phases of this, 12 stages of this particular thing. And I tend to have faith in what she says because she studied this from every way you can study it. And she studied with Carnicom for quite a few years. Brilliant woman, and she's figured this all out. We've figured out other things too. I told her the story about getting this protrusion on my right hand, and I'm telling you, it looked like a triangle at the top. Now, what the heck is this? I don't have tumors. This popped out on my right knuckle, pretty close to the small finger, and that indentation there in the knuckle. But I put every kind of oil, natural oil, that I could find on that in every way that you can think, and I couldn't. It wouldn't phase it. Myrrh had more of a dynamic effect on it than any other oil I put on it. Myrrh. Well, then one day I in fact took one of my disruptors, turned it upside down, and put it right on top of that tumor, and then took one of those elastic pieces of bandage and kind of held it there overnight. I come back the next morning, it was gone. Whatever that was
gone.
Was gone.
That's good.
And that, what it was, is something that grows in your body. As Blue knows who he is, as Blue has said for years, these things in fact take on the dimension of growing like crystals inside the flesh. Well, that's exactly what that was. I nailed its ass, though, with a pendant. I don't think he was really prepared for that. Oh, no, natural magnetic energy.
So, is there any people that were stuck with that condition, the Morgellons condition, that solved their problem with those pendants? Is there anybody that...
I don't think anybody really... I don't think you can really solve anything. I think you can only mitigate it, just as Gwen Scott says.
Okay.
You can only mitigate this, and okay. But be it as it may, when it comes to getting rid of that tumor, I got rid of that tumor, and it's never, ever, ever, ever came back.
Okay.
But interestingly enough, with a magnifying glass, I looked real close at the top of it. It had like a pore. It had like a dish, almost like a dish antenna, embedded in the top of the surface of it. And I put magnetite around that and then put that bandage on. It was on a disruptor. So I can tell you, if that's mitigation, well, that's the best mitigation process I've ever seen. I think I've done abated it, And it's never came back, and that's been a year or two ago. So, I know that there's things that can be done. If you have sores on you, you can turn these pendants upside down. I just say upside down because I just think they work better like that. It does make sense because you're putting these natural magnetic vortices right into the wound or into the boil.
Okay.
These are good boil easers. Really good boil easers. I don't think I can... And there's been many, in fact, who have reported all other types of good things. And folks, I'm not trying to sell you anything. Don't buy anything from me. I'm just trying to tell you, please look at it. Go look at this. And if you need one because you don't have to make it or whatever, okay, that's fine. You do that too. It does not matter. I appreciate everyone's effort, but it just open your eyes just for a glimpse. Get a glimpse of this and know this is something that they could never control, and they've done everything that they can to have eradicated it. But you remember, I go back to the classic key word here, radionics. Mm-hmm. Somebody's already studied radionics, so that's the only field that I can, in fact, think of that would be similar to this because they've done something from a very far distance. I'm telling you, you can do that too, and here's how you do it. Here's how you do it, and let's just keep talking about it because the more we familiarize ourselves with the more primal energy of on this earth. Is there anybody out there that disagrees with that? Please write me. Anybody. It's the primal energy of this earth. And when somebody becomes a little creative enough to say, Tesla said energy going through a crystal with a coil on it, it is accelerated and then spun. And that's when I made my first pendant. I just took and wound them up, made this matrix out of sodium silicate with a gold mineral ion linker. It makes a crystal out of the water glass. It's a silicate. So anyways, that's a ceramic bonded. We don't really use high temperature to cure these or make it ceramic, but it's a ceramic crete, C-R-E-T-E. And, but they are kind of fragile a little bit. But it's kind of cool. It kind of looks like concrete, but it's real heavy. It's like metal. And Wilhelm Reich loved magnetite. He loved the metal. He loved that. But there's so many things I don't know about what these other men have done. So I'm just telling you from my perspective and observation, this is the most precious thing I can think of in this world in a physicality, in a material sense. And just being given the gift, said, wonder what this would do on top here. There's where the concept evolved from that point. It's natural magnetic energy, and this is why it's been completely obfuscated from our purview, because we're humans made in His image kind, and they don't want us knowing this. They want us to be addicted to their reptilian system. End of my story. Thank you, John Francois, for another enlightening show, I'm certain.
But I still have one question, if you don't mind. Because this is fascinating. I wanted to ask that question last week in our last talk. But let's say we were to put a couple of apertures around the HARP facility up in Alaska. What would happen? They do these tests, they push the ionosphere and all that, but if there were to be natural vortices of natural magnetic energy interfering with their quote-unquote experiments, what would happen?
It would muffle them. It would be a gigantic muffler.
A muffler?
Muffler.
I have a hard time.
They got this ELF wave and microwave shooting straight up into the sky or at an angle or wherever they want to put those antenna arrays. It doesn't make any difference. They do it electronically. And they grid pattern this, and NOAA, in fact, sends their template over to Belgium, and in fact, Belgium puts it in the computer, and one of the Cray supercomputers takes over and gives you your weather 2 weeks from now. Oh, by the way, NOAA bowls with tornadoes. You've seen a couple of unusual tornadoes around? Well, they bowl with them. They, in fact, can eradicate entire populaces with hurricanes, Katrina being just one of them. They've done this for quite some time. But see, you can muffler the effect of these things because of the deflection of microwave.
Okay. Because there's like billions and billions of watts of power being beamed up, and just a couple of apertures would disrupt totally this process.
Well, I also, in the last show, told you about how I have faith that these, in fact, can make the CERN accelerator go faster to the right. But it only opens up Hell's Gate if it turns counter-rotating in perfect velocity to the right. Well, if we speed it up to right, that means the left can't catch up. And you don't know how to catch up. So and it only opens at that one velocity frequency. See?
So if you accelerate one side, the gate could close.
It will never open.
Or it doesn't open, okay.
No, see, we're at extreme low frequency anyway. We're below 32
hertz.
We're below 32, people. Well, how do you get that? Well, just go look at any chart. You'll see that is relatively accurate. But see, there's also an acoustic component at that level. Acoustic meaning we can hear it? No, it's not audible. But it's an acoustic component. And everything that Wilhelm Reich talked about was based on the acoustic properties. Not so much the exacting frequency, but the acousticness of it.
So the acoustic, of course, we can't, with our senses, we can't hear that kind of frequency at 32 hertz. But it is still a frequency. It is
still a frequency, but they mishmash sideband carriers on that. That's what I was telling you about CB radio. I talk sideband. They would just take an initial carrier, in fact, wrap a sideband around it, and that's, in fact, where we talk at, on the sideback. Sound like a bunch of bees in a jar. If you're off frequency, but if you're on frequency to where we're at, it was perfect modulation and audibility. So I look at these mind-altering waves as the same exact type thing. They've got this real long wave form, which is extreme low frequency, has an acoustic component, but then they weave a sideband carrier of modulated frequency, and that is all microwave, as a sideband carrier to that huge long waveform. So they can, in fact, diddle with this any way they want to, and then it hits us right in the face. That's what these Gwen towers are. If you think that's got anything to do with emergency or law enforcement, you are horribly, horribly mistaken. That's got nothing to do with that. That's got to do with the psychotronic weapon that they've got focused in every community, including in 5 miles north of nowhere. I wonder what they got it up there for. Who knows? I just know this is a premier weapon of the reptilians. That's all I got to say.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful talk. And I'd like to remind the listeners of this podcast to visit Dr. Castle's website at castleconcept.informationsolved, spelled SOLV.com. So that's castleconcept.informationsolved.com. And hopefully we'll get to get another talk very soon, Dr. Mike. And it's always a pleasure to have you on as a guest.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure coming on, Jean-Francois. And this was kind of, let's just say, ignited by just a brief conversation on the telephone. And then we had the gremlins in the Skype on your end.
Yes.
I call them sidebar gremlins.
Yeah, we had to redo this all over again, but it's okay. It's perfect. It's perfect.
Okay.
So
you and Roz have a very good evening, okay?
We will, and you take care, and blessings your way.
Blessings your way.
Bye-bye.
Good night.